Have you ever wondered if it's possible to have autism without also having ADHD? The truth is, this idea might sound surprising to many, but believe it or not, it's more common than it seems. For a long time, both conditions were treated as if they were always linked, one complementing the other. But what if I told you there are fundamental differences between autism and ADHD that often go unnoticed? By understanding these distinctions, not only can you start to see these conditions in a new light, but you can also discover ways to deal with them more effectively and strategically. What's fascinating is that, while both disorders share certain behaviors, the underlying causes can be completely different. People with autism, for instance, don't handle distractions and impulsivity the same way those with ADHD do. In fact, autism may come with a meticulous attention to detail, while ADHD brings a constant search for new stimuli, which can be disorienting. And the most interesting part? Each of these conditions requires a unique approach, but both offer incredible perspectives on how the human brain works. Want to understand the differences in a clear and direct way, no fluff? Stick with me, because what you'll discover now could completely change the way you view autism and ADHD. Are you ready to debunk these concepts and see how they apply to your life, or the life of someone you care about? Topic 1. High overlap between autism and ADHD. Many experts observe that ADHD and autism have traits that frequently overlap, which can cause confusion in identifying the two. Although they share some common traits, like difficulty maintaining focus and seeking stimulation, each has its own unique signature. Think of it like two parallel lines that occasionally touch. That's what happens here. An autistic person and someone with ADHD may display similar behaviors, but the root causes of these behaviors differ, influencing the strategies each uses to navigate life. Another intriguing point is that, despite the overlap, each condition has its own specific aspects. In ADHD, for example, impulsiveness and a constant craving for novelty are prominent. In contrast, autism often stands out with its intense focus on specific interests and a near-meticulous routine for many activities. Picture a common scenario. Someone with ADHD would dive into a new hobby only to abandon it shortly afterward, while an autistic person would focus on one project for hours or even years, examining every minute detail. Over time, science has delved deeper into these similarities and differences, revealing how rich the complexity of the human brain truly is. Understanding this overlap gives us a broader perspective on how each individual experiences their reality. When we think about the lived experience of those with ADHD or autism, we see that there is no one-size-fits-all, and that's what makes understanding and support so important. Let's dive deeper into each of these nuances, exploring how each diagnosis shows up in real life. Topic 2. Personal experience of diagnosis. Receiving a diagnosis of autism or ADHD is like unlocking a part of yourself that's always been there, but now has shape and a name. For many, the process is a relief, as they finally find explanations for the experiences and challenges they've faced throughout life. In the case of autism, for instance, there are observable signs that often lead to an almost immediate diagnosis, especially in adults who've developed certain noticeable patterns, like specific interests or unique sensory preferences. It's a moment of recognition that can be as transformative as it is unexpected. The diagnosis of ADHD, on the other hand, can be more complex, as symptoms may blend with other characteristics. While an autistic person might be diagnosed quickly by an attentive psychologist, someone with ADHD might go through years of testing and questionnaires before understanding their own behavior. Think of the difference: an autistic mind focusing on intricate details versus the fast-moving mind of ADHD, jumping from thought to thought in search of new ideas and stimuli. For many, the clarity brought by a diagnosis is a game-changer, helping them shape a new perspective on their capabilities and limitations. After the diagnosis, the path to self-understanding begins, opening doors to new strategies and ways to live in harmony with oneself. Knowing one's own traits, whether impulsivity or attention to detail, enables individuals to discover their best tools for dealing with daily life. For those with autism or ADHD, accepting and understanding their own neurodivergence can mean finding balance and knowing exactly where to seek support and guidance. Topic 3. Inattention in ADHD versus autism. In ADHD, inattention is often described as a constant battle against distraction. The mind wanders, constantly seeking new stimuli, which often leads to difficulty focusing on specific tasks. This fragmented attention is common in ADHD, like a radio that switches stations non-stop, making it almost impossible to maintain a continuous train of thought. In contrast, for autism, the scenario is very different. Attention is not only focused, but, in many cases, obsessively so. It's as if every detail becomes a crucial piece they must fit perfectly. The difference between the two conditions also becomes apparent in how they impact executive functioning, the skills involved in organizing, planning, and completing tasks. A person with ADHD may have multiple ideas, but lose the thread before completing them. On the other hand, someone with autism tends to dive deeply into a specific activity for hours, perhaps days, with enviable precision. Imagine someone with ADHD trying to organize a project. They start off excited, but soon get distracted and move on to something else. In autism, the attention to detail might be so intense that the person keeps correcting the smallest aspects without resting until the desired result is achieved. This contrast in attention patterns leads to different forms of experience and behavior. In ADHD, the mind may seem like a fast-paced race for stimulation, while autism offers a more controlled, detailed immersion. This doesn't mean that one experience is right and the other wrong. Both are unique ways of seeing the world, with their own strengths and challenges. It's fascinating to see how these differences influence daily life and shape how someone with ADHD or autism perceives things. Topic 4. Extreme reactions and sensory sensitivities. One of the most striking features between autism and ADHD is sensory reactions. For those living with autism, sensory stimuli can be intense, but many autistic individuals develop a nearly Zen-like way of dealing with that intensity, staying calm amid discomfort. In contrast, people with ADHD tend to react more emotionally and explosively, especially in situations where they feel overwhelmed. Imagine someone in a noisy environment. An autistic person might retreat or use self-regulation techniques, while someone with ADHD might show signs of frustration or impatience. These differences reflect how each person's nervous system processes stimuli. ADHD, with its impulsivity, may cause an immediate, intense emotional reaction, while autism involves a more heightened sensory perception, where sounds, lights, or textures are deeply absorbed and sometimes overwhelming. For an autistic person, touching a rough surface might evoke a real physical discomfort, while someone with ADHD would mainly be affected by distraction and an overload of stimuli in the environment. For both, it's crucial to learn strategies that help deal with these reactions. Meditation and breathing techniques are practices that can be useful for calming the mind, especially for those with ADHD who feel their emotions are hard to control. For autism, using noise-canceling headphones or soothing textures like soft fabrics can help reduce the impact of sensory stimuli. With these strategies, it's possible to find more balance in an intensely sensory world. Topic 5. Routine and flexibility. Routine plays a central role in the lives of many autistic people. For them, having a predictable, well-structured day helps reduce anxiety and decision fatigue, providing a sense of control over what's coming next. Imagine the comfort of knowing exactly what will happen next, like a script that guides you with no surprises. This helps create a safer environment where activities can be carried out almost automatically, without the burden of indecision. An autistic person, therefore, tends to find relief in habit and predictability. ADHD, on the other hand, presents a different scenario. Those living with this condition may struggle with sticking to rigid routines, as impulsivity and the quest for new experiences often pull them away from focus. It's like trying to keep the course of a turbulent river. It constantly veers off track. A person with ADHD may mix periods of high productivity with moments of total disorganization, struggling to balance both phases. This doesn't mean they can't be organized at times, but flexibility becomes a key skill in managing the chaos. What's interesting is that despite these differences, there's a point of convergence. Both those with autism and those with ADHD need to find a balance between routine and flexibility for well-being. For autistic people, routine provides stability, while for those with ADHD, flexibility allows adaptation to the environment and situation. By combining both aspects, it's possible to achieve a more harmonious daily life where the stability of routine finds room for spontaneity and necessary changes. Topic 6. Neurodiversity perspective. The idea of neurodiversity invites us to view autism and ADHD not as isolated and problematic conditions, but as natural variations of the human brain. This perspective suggests that, instead of trying to normalize people, we should understand and accept the differences in brain functioning, recognizing the value and strengths they bring to society. ADHD and autism, when viewed through the lens of neurodiversity, cease to be obstacles to overcome and instead become characteristics that make up each individual's unique complexity. In the context of this perspective, ADHD is seen as a manifestation of a restless and creative mind, capable of generating new ideas and perspectives. Autism, with its precision and depth, offers valuable insights, particularly in areas that require meticulous attention to detail. Both conditions, then, are not deficiencies, but brain variations that bring unique contributions. When society adopts this concept of neurodiversity, it begins to create space for each person to have their differences respected and valued, without trying to fit everyone into one mold. By understanding autism and ADHD through the lens of neurodiversity, we become more equipped to embrace and support people with these conditions, creating an environment where brain variations are not only tolerated but celebrated. This is a crucial step in breaking down stigmas and prejudices, offering those with ADHD and autism the respect and opportunities they deserve. When we can see the beauty in differences, we can also build a more inclusive society rich in diversity. Conclusion. Now that you've understood the differences between autism and ADHD, the question is, how can this transform your life or the life of someone around you? Can you apply this knowledge to improve the way you handle daily life or just how you interact with people who have these conditions? Think about the small changes you can make to create more inclusive, understanding, and respectful environments. This is the time to reflect on how different forms of neurodivergence can be seen as opportunities, not limitations. Neurodiversity is a powerful key to unlocking human potential in a broader, deeper way. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with autism, ADHD, or both, the key is understanding needs, accepting differences, and most importantly, seeking solutions that make sense for each person. Now, ask yourself, what can you do to apply this understanding in your everyday life? What small actions can improve your communication and interaction with people who think and react differently? If you want to keep learning more about understanding the complexities of the human mind, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any valuable content. And if this video made sense to you, don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or experiences. Let's continue exploring these topics together, because the path to understanding and acceptance begins with information.